I've got a really good story to share with you that illustrates why the Big Island is a bad place for criminals. And also, I'm going to share with you some takeaways from this story that you could learn to apply in your own neighborhood to make it a better and safer place. Aloha, I'm Peter Kay, and I've been living in Hawaii since the 80s, and I connect with people that want to live in Hawaii. So if that's you, this is your channel. Get subscribed, get on the notifications. We create videos every couple of weeks. So on our live show, which by the way, we have a live show every other Friday, you definitely ought to get involved in that. In the description, you can click on and get on the newsletter. You get an invite. We got into a discussion about crime, what areas are crime-free or reduced crime in Hawaii. And Dylan told us a great story about
my father-in-law recently got his truck stolen from his driveway, and they live in a really safe neighborhood.
So much for crime-free, right?
But for 30 years, he's parked his truck in his driveway with the keys in it.
So that kind of changes the dynamics, right? Well, we can only guess, but what probably happened was
been some stupid kids that were in the neighborhood, maybe looking in cars, trying to, see if there were any valuables or whatever. But since there were keys in the truck, they drove away with it.
Well, what happens next is the real part of the story. And it's a classic example of how Hawaii's tight-knit communities come together. And in it also is the lesson for you.
Well, that's the cool thing about the world today, small town and social media, is immediately the word went out on social media to look for, and the truck was kind of a unique truck. And I think my wife had 100 shares on her Facebook post, and everybody knew about it, right? I mean, everybody was on the lookout for this truck. So quickly, the truck turned up. Like within 12 hours, these kids figured out that this is probably not a good idea, and just abandoned it near a grocery store near the house, and we found it.
So within 12 hours, the truck was found and returned to its rightful owner. And it's not hard to imagine why.
I just imagine these kids who are all over social media themselves, right, are probably on Facebook saying, hey, dude, man, look, everyone's kind of sharing that we just stole the car. Dump this damn thing. Hurry up quick, man. There's like 10,000 views on this thing. I can just imagine that conversation. Easy.
So we got a happy ending, right? But there's a deeper story. And this is the one I want you to hear.
But the funny part of that story was that there was, so many people knew about it that one of my wife's friends' husbands was driving home, and he passed what he thought was the truck. So he immediately U-turns and follows this truck 10 miles back into Kailua. He was up kind of where we live, follows this truck into the Ross parking lot, and then parks next to the guy and gets out and starts walking towards the truck. And the guy gets out of the truck and says, hey, this is my truck. I promise this is my truck. I know everybody's looking for it. This is my truck. It's not the stolen truck. Because I guess this guy's had been confronted several times that day already, because everybody in town was on the lookout for this truck.
So why is Hawaii a bad place for criminals? Because we have tight-knit communities. We look out for each other. Everybody knows everybody. And, I know that you've heard of similar stories, and on anywhere across the mainland, especially like when there's like calamities or storms, like snowstorms and things like that. It brings the neighborhood together and people will look out for each other. That's something that we kind of practice here every day in Hawaii. Maybe it goes to our islander culture, the fact that we have to look out for each other. We gotta take care of each other. That could be a big part of it. But that tight-knit looking out for each other, watch out for your neighbor, is a big part of local culture. And it's one of the reasons why, on the Big Island especially, not a good place for criminals. Oahu's different. It's more urban. There's density. You don't have the sense of community with people in the condo building, right? Although you do see it in neighborhoods everywhere, but certainly on the Big Island. So how can you use this to make your community safer? Well, kind of obvious by now, isn't it? Look out for each other. Establish good relationships. How well do you know your neighbors? How well do your neighbors know you? Do you help each other out? Like for example, in our neighborhood, we're not like best of friends or anything, but we know each other very well. And when anyone goes on vacation or one's gonna be out for a few days, we talk to each other, we know who's out, we know who's in, we know who the strangers are, we report on them right away. This makes the neighborhood safer. So here's a clarifying question for you. What could you do to make your neighborhood stronger? What could you do to give a stronger sense of community and fellowship in your neighborhood? Answer that, and I'll guarantee you have a safer place to live. All right, got a question for me? In the description, I got a link to a form. Fill out the form, put in your question, add your name so I know who you are, and I can give you credit. And we'll see you in the next one. I'm Peter K, and I am living the dream in a great, safe place. It is Hawaii. Aloha.